When I was a child, my parents convinced me that there were no such things as monsters, and there certainly wasn't one living under my bed. They were wrong, because many years later, I deal with monsters all the time. But the monsters I deal with snatch other people's pets. I'm going to take you on an investigation into an incident that happened recently, which is repeated thousands of times a year across the United Kingdom. And what I'd like you to do is to watch this video as if you're a member of the jury. And after hearing the facts of the case, I'd like you to decide whether you think a theft has taken place or not. And then at the end of the video, I have a special request for you, which will help reunite owners with their missing cats. So here's the facts of the story, and this is a true story. Recently, a cat ended up in a cat rescue centre after the owner of the cat passed away. So this got me thinking, had the owner suddenly passed away? Or was this yet another incident of finders keepers, the legal term for which is theft by finding? Well, here are the facts of this particular case. When the rescue centre scanned the cat for a microchip, they were surprised to discover that the woman who had passed away didn't own the cat. It actually belonged to a family that had reported their cat missing some 5 years previously. And when the rescue centre contacted that family, someone rushed over to the centre immediately to collect their cat, stating they were over the moon to be reunited and they'd missed their cat so much. So has a theft taken place or not? We can deduce a couple of things about the cat's genuine owner. Firstly, they'd microchipped their cat before it's mandatory to do so, which shows them to be responsible owners. Secondly, they've reported their cat missing to the microchip company, so they were clearly missing their cat. And this is corroborated by the statement they made when they collected their cat, stating how much they'd missed him. So what do we know about this particular cat's disappearance? Well, the rescue centre appeared to have inside information because they released the following statement. The cat's interim owner, who took him in as a stray, had the best intentions and cared for him very well. So let's take a closer look at that statement. There is no such thing as an interim owner. You either own a cat or you do not. In respect of cats, ownership is established by proof of purchase or proof of adoption, or communications between the seller and the buyer. A history of veterinary bills showing the cat's name, the owner's name and the owner's address. Of course, the cat being microchipped in the owner's name and at the owner's address. It is a combination of all of these things and other proof. And one thing ownership is never determined on is possession. For if it were, every single cat minder could claim that they own the cat that is temporarily in their care, which is ludicrous. So let's look at the second part of this statement, who took him in as a stray. It is now generally accepted that a definition of a stray cat is a cat that has been socialised, used to have a home, and used to have an owner. In this case, this cat still had a home and still had an owner, so it clearly was not a stray cat. So was the person who had possession of the cat mistaken in the belief it was a stray, or was this a case of willful blindness? Which brings us on to the third point, had the best intentions. Over the last 20 years, I have dealt with thousands of cat owners who've had their cats suddenly taken from them. And the one thing that unites all of them is every single one of them is suffering at the loss of their cat, some more so than others. And for a few unfortunate souls, that suffering goes on for months, if not years, because they never find out what has happened to their missing cat. The law is very clear when it comes to taking possession of someone else's property, and it states a person will commit an offence of theft by finding if they appropriate property belonging to another, take possession of someone's cat, unless they do so in the belief that the person to whom the cat belongs cannot be traced by taking reasonable steps. And the law goes one step further in explaining what reasonable means. Was the defendant's conduct dishonest by the standards of ordinary and decent people? In helping you to reach that decision, let's have a look at the term in the legislation, reasonable steps. Note is plural, not singular. So what do you think would be reasonable steps for someone to take when they find a cat in their garden? So let's move on to the final part of the statement released by the rescue centre. Cared for him very well. Does the fact that somebody provides care for the cat that they found in their garden in any way justify taking possession of a cat that belongs to somebody else? And then, when having taken possession, not taking reasonable steps to try and identify the owner? In answering that question, let me give you the benefit of my 20 years experience of dealing with similar incidents. Ultimately, the aim of the feeder is to encourage the animal they're feeding to return to their garden, whether the animal is a fox, a badger, a squirrel, birds, or cat. The feeder wants to enjoy the company of the animal in close proximity to their home. However, of all of these animals, it is only the cat that the feeder can take into the home without drawing undue attention from neighbours or friends. Simply claiming a cat as a stray because you've been feeding it for several weeks will never justify the act of taking possession of somebody else's property, i.e. someone else's cat. And this is where you come in as a viewer of this video. Remember, I asked you to assume the position of a member of the jury. It is now time for you to decide that, having been made aware of all the facts of this case, do you believe a theft has taken place or not? So here's that special request I have for you. I mentioned at the start of the video that these kind of incidents are repeated thousands of times every single year across the country. Now, if you know someone that's taken possession of a cat in similar circumstances, or if you have acquired a cat in similar circumstances and you've not yet checked to see if that cat is microchipped, then I encourage you to do so. Because if the cat that you have in your possession is owned by somebody and that person is suffering at the loss of their cat and you're in a position to end that suffering, then why wouldn't you? Food for thought, eh? I'm Colin Butcher, the Pet Detective. Stick around to watch some of our other videos, and thanks very much for watching this one. You take care. Bye-bye.